Bam! Hello, Rimfire friends. I hope everybody is doing well. This is a very important event. Super rare, monumental occasion is where Mr. In-Range Rimfire myself has purchased a new firearm. This guy. Now, I know there's 10 trillion reviews on YouTube and unboxings and all that sort of thing, and these guys have been out for years, and I never liked Chiappa, Little Badger stuff. Well, I like the idea, but I didn't really like them for me. I like accurate rimfires, and I think that these guys are good. I don't get, of course, but these guys are good for what they are. But for me, I didn't have a purpose. Well, I have a purpose for one of these, and I actively kind of sought out one, and here we are. So I want to talk about this just quickly, and hopefully this will turn into kind of like a range outdoor video for you guys. So let's talk about it. So normally, as you guys know, I shoot like, competition, accurate rimfires, that's my thing. I don't really have a need for one of these, but I do happen to have some very avid outdoorsmen, children, sons of mine, and who are in the bush all the time. As you know, you've seen Luke shoot competitively many times, and this rifle ticks a lot of boxes for them when they go out in the bush. So I thought I would pick one up and kind of see what the pros and cons are with it for them. So I've already opened it, obviously, you guys can see that. So I'm not going to dwell too much on unboxing because I've opened it. So it comes in this really cool cardboard box, and inside is the rifle itself, which we'll talk about in a second. And you get a manual, which, as you can see, I've never opened, and some rad stickers. And actually, I kind of like you got like a chamber brush with it. And what I like about it is that it's steel. So when you're brushing your chamber, you're very slowly eroding that chamber. So make sure you use this cleaning. Right. Anyway, so some cool stuff in there, and I didn't open it, well, because I'm still not going to open it. But anyway, it comes in the box. There you go. This is the cool part here. Now, I have, moving my backdrop here, I have played with this a little bit with my sons, and we have kind of already modified it by this silicone sleeve because, well, we live on an island and it's kind of damp out here. So we took a gun sock and we zip tied it, or I did, and we slid it in there just for storage purposes because we do live on an island with more rain annually than the United Kingdom. So it's a damp environment. Anyway, I'm getting ahead of myself. Doesn't matter. Ignore this sock. It does not come with it. Well, I added it. So the rifle itself comes together like this. This is how it's shipped. And it's got this Picatinny goodness all over it. And if you know the Chiappa original Little Badger had this kind of wire stock, and one of the reasons I've never owned one of those is because the idea was great, but and I'll put a picture up for you guys here. The original Chiappa Little Badger folded with this wire stock, but it didn't fold properly. It hit the kind of release lever, and it didn't fold as I always thought it should into itself like this. It folded to be this kind of triangle that didn't pack well, and I thought it was a huge miss. And I've encountered them at the range with people. I've shot many of them, and so I kind of I wasn't interested in it per se. But this one really folds down truly, and as you can see, it makes a very small kind of footprint. So it has this this is the barrel portion. So you got the front sight on it, a bunch of Picatinny ninja goodness, and then the barrel notch, rear sight, and then you have like the action itself and all its goodness with the buttstock. And the way they fold together, it has this Picatinny kind of, adapter, female adapter, and then it slides onto itself and then it stores, so to speak. It has this takedown thumb screw, and you kind of, I'll let you guys see that, and you open it up, it kind of fits in a notch like this. You tighten this fella up. Plastic, steel. Almost feels like the barrel, blued steel. Pretty substantial. I like that this is plastic. I do. But I feel this should be, like the screw itself should be an alloy or a steel, because, well, that would be better for longevity. So it's some sort of, it's not bad, like it feels good, but I don't like it because it's threaded. It feels high quality, but I don't like it. Again, you have the round, and like I'm happy with this. I'm totally okay with this being plastic, steel, and then you get into the alloy receiver. And like I'm not gonna talk too much about this sort of thing because like there's a billion reviews on them. Okay, I want to talk about this per se because, you know, like this is kind of newish. Xtreme. Anyway, so it has these. On this side, it has some colored notches or dots. So the white would be the takedown portion and the red would be the locked. So you slide it together like this. And believe me, this takes me a couple of times. And then you close it and you see it's already kind of moved. That's kind of norm. And these are like, it's no joke. And then you put it, and I don't know if you could hear that, but listen to it. Hear that click? And then I'll turn back to the red. You'll hear it again. Jesus. Oh my God. Hear that? Okay. So that means it's locked. And then you're in this portion here. Now you can see it's on kind of like half cock position. I'll show you what that looks like. So that's fully focus. That's fully in the non-half cock position. And then I'll show you right there. That's the half cock position. And that would allow you to break the rifle with no trouble. You break the rifle with this fella right here. And away you go. Okay. So the interesting thing about this is if you break it like I just did, you put it on half cock and you pull the release lever and you break it. That's one way of doing it. But they seem to make it so you pull the trigger like this and it self-sets to half cock. See what I mean? And then it's sitting in the half cock position. And then of course, this would be a safe way to, like, let's say you want to put a round in it. You open it up, you slap a round in it, you close it, the trigger is locked out. And that's the only safety on this fella, is the old style lever action, you know, half cocked revolver thing, right? So you can pull the trigger all you want with a round in the chamber, and away you go. So anyway, this is what it looks like together. It's like, I don't know, 3 pounds or something. It's got a really cool threaded muzzle that we can't use here in Canada, but it's there. I don't like that this is plastic front sights. From a lightweight point of view, I think that's good, but I think a front sight should be steel because you whack that on something when you're out in the bush, it's broken, and then, well, it's not protecting that very fragile front plastic sight blade. So that's a little bit irritating because that's the whole thing about this sort of thing. It's like, I get the use of lightweight materials, but what in the hell do you have so many Picatinny rails on something, plastic rails, I might add, to make it super tactical when, like, shave the weight and put a steel front sight, get rid of these. Top one's fine, bottom one's, but the side ones, really? I don't understand. Same with the rear. Like, I think what I like about this mostly is that it has this really cool kind of like peep sight setup rather than like the typical buckhorn or something like that. Because these are pretty decent sights in my opinion. Like, I wouldn't put a red dot or scope on that. I would leave it as is. So yeah, from a packable rifle point of view, to me, this is a 5-star rifle. I love it so far. I should say 4-star because I would lose a star based on accuracy, but I remember shooting a couple of these and they weren't bad. So I won't say that I would expect anything different out of this because the barrels are all probably the same. They probably have 100 years worth of barrels ready to go. It has this Picatinny rail here, I imagine for like a grip, like a pistol grip. And then somebody casually mentioned to me at the gun store that you can 3D print files and they slide right on. I think that would be dumb personally for what this is. This is like ideal as a pack rifle, like a couple of pounds in a pack. Like, ignore that. This is pretty awesome. So I want to talk quickly about, because it was pretty amazing thing to me, is the trigger on this guy. The trigger is amazingly light, and I don't want to dry fire too much, even though apparently they're safe to do so. But I would say like this is like one of the nicest factory triggers I can remember in some time. It's a beautiful trigger. I don't have my gauge handy because, well, it doesn't matter. It's not a target rifle, but it surprised me how nice it was. And I know it'll slightly break in over time, and like it feels like a couple of pounds, like maybe 2. Clean, crisp. I don't feel any like creep on it. It's a nice trigger. So that was a surprise for sure. I don't know if this rifle will really matter in terms of accuracy to benefit from that, but really good job Chiappa on a decent trigger and something like this. I know, as you know, like Luke shoots very well and he shot competitively and he appreciates a good trigger, and when he doesn't have a good trigger, he's like, gross, this trigger sucks. So he knows that this was a nice trigger, recognized it right away. It's nice. I should mention that out of the box, I mean factory, there was a blemish here. And I'm like, oh, it's like this terrible scratch or something. No, it's factory, I don't know, engraving. Looks like garbage. Why they would put that there, I'm not sure. But that's where they decided to put some factory marks. And I was like, oh, what's that? Nope, that's factory engraving. What a dumb place to put it. So it loses some sub marks for that. Chiappa, get your game on. That's dumb. I don't like it. I also, like, to me, that sort of thing doesn't matter because you'd expect it there. You know, the import marks, that all's fine. But I'm super not impressed with that. Call me crazy, but it would have looked better, like a little bit more subdued than right there. I don't know. Not that this is a high value firearm. Like, it doesn't really matter what I paid here in Canada because it's probably more than most of you or all of you would pay for one of these things. But it's not an expensive firearm by any means. It's about the same price as a decent quality Crossman, you know, so, or decent level Crossman, I should say. So certainly not a super high-end firearm for sure. So anyway, so it has, like I mentioned, you can do all sorts of things, half cock it and then break it. It has an extractor, not ejector. It's spring loaded, as you see. I've tried it with some empty brass, and the chamber is loose, meaning it's generous, and it puts a very decent imprint on the case, so that's nice to see. Should probably fire most things very well. I like it. It's cool for what it is. I want to talk quickly about the tube that it came in. It came in this kind of, it's got a nice foam plug at one end, and then it's hard for you guys to probably see, but there's another duplicate of that in the bottom of this, so it doesn't rattle around, fits in there good. It's a screw-on kind of cap, and I think it would be watertight. I know when, like, I showed it to Luke, Luke was really impressed with the strap. He liked that it was like super tough webbing with this nice elastic. This part's elastic, and he was most impressed with this. Not most impressed compared to the rifle, but he was very impressed with this. It seemed like a very high quality piece. He liked the screw-on. He felt like it would float. I don't know. We're going to test that out, hopefully. But overall, this is a nice delivered package. I like the tube rather than like a nylon Cordura case. I don't like those for this sort of thing. I like that it's a tube, throw it under the seat of your truck kind of thing. I like the screw-on. I just like the delivered package. I think that's cool. I think whoever came up with this was a good decision. It has its own case. You know what I mean? It doesn't look like a firearm. The graphic is a little bit much, but hey, who cares? You could spray over that and away you go. But I think not looking like a firearm or a firearm case, it could sit in the corner of, you know, your office, and you could take it out if you wanted to. You know, a little hang tag here. That's, you could tell what they're after this. So I give this sort of thing good marks. It's very robust, flexible in the right way. Just seems like a well thought out, for the price point, item. And so I don't want to go too much talking about over what this actually is. This is, I guess I should mention quickly, this is how the other one folded. And it was always a miss to me because it encountered this lever in the trigger right here. And I was like, God, if I had designed this, I would have put a cutout in there and it would have folded flush, which I still think they should do. They should make, and maybe there's legalities in the countries they sell in and why they can't do that. I don't know. But just from my point of view, you know, if this folded without having to unhook it like a, you know, and then so it folded flat, and then this could fold over itself and make it one seamless thing. I know they could make that. The reason they don't is probably from a legality point and trying to sell in different countries. Canada, bizarrely, even though our laws are very strict, we have strange laws about what you can have if a manufacturer manufactures it. Like, you can have short, like 8-inch barreled shotguns here, no problem. And in the States, it'd be sawed off level. But here, if it's factory manufactured, you can have them. So you can have strange things like this, but I don't know if Chiappa as a company is able to manufacture them for the worldwide market based on this. So it's just a guess. But from my point of view, although this is kind of cool, this notch thing is like, it could be so much faster. So you put it back to the white notch, I should say, and then you find kind of the sweet spot, and then it unhooks. And so it kind of fits into that notch like this, and then you'd rotate it to lock, put that back to red, and then it would be locked in position and it wouldn't accidentally come out when you're unloading it. But like I said, played with it. Everything seemed to function really good. Nice machining on it. The crown looks great. Like for the price point, I was expecting much worse. Not to say that the Chiappa regular little badgers that I've handled are crap. This certainly leaves me with a very positive impression of this rifle. And all I'm expecting from this sort of package, we're talking CB shorts or CCI quiet at 25-yard pop can targets, or, rabbits in the bush kind of thing, nothing serious. That's what my kids, would want to use this in the bush for. Small game hunting within a 40, 50-yard radius, or distance rather, based on the sights that you have on it. And you can put scopes on them and stuff like that, but for what I would use this in the bush is sub 40, 50 yards, pop can size target, animal, small game, or like I talked about with my son recently, it was like, there's nothing wrong with taking this very small couple-pound rifle in the bush with a brick of CCI standard velocity and sitting around the campfire during the day and shooting some pop cans and some targets for fun. Nice and slow and steady. You're not burning through a ton of rounds, one shot at a time, just for fun. So fun gun. Anyway, I'm going to leave this one here. I'm going to have part 2 where I take it out and hopefully shoot some steel with it or something like that. Maybe some groups. We'll see what we can do with it. But look forward to that in the future. I don't know whenever I get around to it. But I'll leave this one here. Any questions or comments, leave them below. And I'll do my best to answer them. But if not, Chiappa Little Badger Xtreme for the win.